Humans have always chased freedom. We hunt for it through the accumulation of wealth. We try to secure it through political power, career success, or the simple desire for personal independence. At the base of all these frantic pursuits lies a universally accepted assumption. We believe freedom is simply the ability to do whatever we want, whenever we want to do it. But the philosophical inquiry in Is True Freedom Effortless asks us to pause and look closely at that definition. It asks a quieter, more difficult question. What do we actually mean when we use the word freedom? There is a danger hiding in our baseline assumption. If our very definition of freedom is flawed from the start, then our lifelong, exhausting pursuit to achieve it might actually be a trap. We feel free because we appear to make choices every single day. We choose a career, we choose a partner, we choose our dinner. But we almost never stop to question where those choices actually originate. The desires that drive our choices are heavily dictated by psychological conditioning. Our past experiences write a hidden script, pre-programming what we will want and what we will avoid in the future. The brain operates on an automated stimulus-response mechanism. When the environment offers praise, the mind automatically triggers a feeling of pleasure. When criticism appears, it strictly triggers discomfort. Notice that the signal completely bypasses any conscious, deliberate choice. These automatic emotional reactions then dictate our subsequent actions. We blindly chase the pleasure and run from the discomfort, locking our behavior into a highly predictable, mechanical loop. If our desires and our resulting actions are just automatic reactions to past conditioning, then the concept of free will as we know it is an illusion. A blind reaction to a stimulus cannot be freedom. To understand why we get stuck in this loop, we have to look inward at the mechanics of the human mind. Its primary function is to act as an interpreter of reality. But there is a critical mechanical flaw in this system. The mind rarely settles for merely interpreting reality. It actively and aggressively distorts it. Take anger, for example. Anger acts as a lens that manufactures conflict, projecting hostility into situations where none naturally exists. Fear operates the same way. It hallucinates threats and invents elaborate dangers that aren't actually present in the physical room with you. Driving these distortions is the concept of the separate self, or the ego, the psychological center that constantly tries to control life and manipulate outcomes to its own advantage. This psychological center constantly divides itself. It pulls toward desire while simultaneously pushing away from fear. Attempting to run these two opposing directives at the same time creates severe inner friction within the mind. When human perception is heavily distorted by these conflicting forces, our actions cease to be intelligent. Life simply becomes confusion in motion. But there are moments when the brain completely stops dividing itself between fear and desire. This is the phenomenon of the quiet mind. When attention becomes fully anchored in the present moment, the suffocating control of that separate self immediately begins to weaken. The result of this stillness is immediate. The exhausting inner friction dissolves entirely, and life begins to unfold with surprising simplicity. Without the distortion of the ego constantly trying to force a specific outcome, the mind is finally capable of encountering reality without psychological resistance. When the noise of past conditioning drops away, the brain enters a completely new operational state. This state is simply seeing clearly. It is a mode of perception completely stripped of the heavy baggage of past emotional reactions and the anxiety of future hypotheticals. And here is the counterintuitive result of that absolute clarity. You no longer have to figure out what to do. The right course of action becomes immediately, blindingly obvious, requiring zero internal debate. True intelligence in this framework isn't about performing complex calculations or forcing the world to bend to your will. It is simply the absence of psychological distortion. This brings us to effortless action. When perception is clear, the exhausting effort of fighting your own psychological resistance simply vanishes. Life begins to move smoothly and with absolute precision. The action required by the specific moment reveals itself naturally. So we have to rethink our initial assumption. True freedom is not the ability to blindly follow every random impulse your conditioned brain throws at you. It is freedom from the distortions that cloud your sight in the first place. When the mind becomes simple and clear, action becomes effortless. And that quiet intelligence moving through your life, that is the only true freedom.